did chime in on this on the news and why it matters because we did bring it up. But I just want to talk about how the NFL and the direction that they're going in is so fucking goofy. And now, look, I'm detached from the NFL, and it's been like that for really since the beginning of COVID when they started putting out such a shit product. And I was like, you know what? I'm not interested in that. And then, of course, the sum of love happened, and the sports, mainly with the NBA, was the worst. Really, with both of those sports, and NBA and NFL, I just don't care, man. I listen to more sports radio than I do watch, like, because I haven't watched the NFL in forever. Again, well, not forever. It's been since like the COVID shit started, and it's okay. You know, being a hardcore sports guy, at some point I've been, you know, this is something that was bizarre. You'd have asked me 3 years ago, I guess, if I would ever be in a position where I'm just like not watching like basketball or football. I'd have told you were fucking insane because that was just what it was. But, you know, as I've mentioned before, the longer period of time you go without it, the more you're like, oh, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. That was the point that I brought up on yesterday on the News and Why It Matters. But I did want to talk about this subject today on my show. And that, so the NFL now has a policy, right? They had that whole situation. Of course, was Brian Flores, former Miami Dolphin, which I don't understand why he was fired, to be fair. But of course, he's screaming more racism. So they had that old ordeal going on. And now, you know, they had that with the Rooney Rule or whatever it is. And now they have another policy right here, in which now on the offensive side of things, you have to have basically a non-white male person be on the staff. Now, I'll say this much. This is why it matters. And I said it's arguably worse because of this. You have to think of it through the lens of this. The NFL, I'm almost guaranteeing you every single team in the NFL already has that, right? It happened rather naturally. They already have and it's some spot, you know, the dozens of offensive assistant coaches, position coaches that every single team has. You know that they, on the offensive side, have at least one non-white male person that's on that team. So you have to then ask, why on earth would they have this as a policy, considering that that's already in effect, that already is happening? Those teams are going to have to adjust based upon certainly this. Well, the question, which is a good one, is because of who they're trying to appeal to. And this is why I said it's worse. When you already know that something's like that is already just happened naturally, just because of the nature of the makeup of the NFL, and you consider that a lot of these offensive and defensive assistant coaches are former players, like these guys, inevitably you're going to have people of different races. Now, the women, maybe not as much, but certainly of different races, something that's already been done. So why on earth would they have such a policy? It's because they're trying to signal. Now, some of it may be that they're trying to get the heat off their back because a lot of people within the NFL and head coaches and all this, they're talking about, ESPN, which I don't know why any of you guys are watching that, but I certainly see clips floating around on social media where this is all they talk about. Oh, my head coaches, they should be of a certain race. They're not. There's only this amount. It's like, dude, merit is merit. And let's say if this wasn't the case. Let's just assume, just for the sake of argument, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's say if it just happened naturally and it was a merit and these happen to be the best people that were being put in these positions, there's nothing wrong with that. However, this is just where we're at with entertainment. And yes, it is a sport that you think is based on merit, but it is entertainment after all. And this is just par for the course for what we've seen in the entertainment industries. And that is this hyperemphasis of race, of gender, sexuality. And if you think they're going to stop here and this maybe won't be something that they expand upon, I think you're being naive there. Of course, expand upon this, because definitely it's not going to ever be enough for the quote unquote left. And that's my thing with entertainment with sports. And as mentioned, as the shit ESPN had reported, before I go any further, every coach will receive a 1-year contract and work closely with the head coach and offensive staff to gain experience. These, of course, part of this like diversity efforts that these guys have. Sports Illustrated said, statement from a United Press, and the national teams will be reimbursed for the minority coaching hires through a league-wide fund that will contribute towards salaries to up to 2 years. So it's affirmative action as well. So in the event that you just slide someone in there because of that incentive, it's basically that the NFL has a designated. It's almost like the WNBA for the NBA. It's a write-off effectively. That damn league doesn't make any goddamn money at all, but they'll use the funds that the league makes in order to fund this nonsense. Which again, does this actually even need to be a thing considering what the fuck's happening? It's a recognition that at the moment, when you look at stepping stones for a head coach, they are coordinator positions. This is what Art Rooney, who's chairman of the NFL Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which I didn't know that the NFL had that, but it is a fake job that many big mega corporate entities are having because it's not real. We clearly have a trend where coaches coming from the offensive side of the ball in recent years, and we clearly do not have as many minorities in the offensive coordinator job. ESPN site league data said that 15 minorities are among the NFL's defensive coordinators, and minority coaches now represent 39% of the league total, an increase from 35% in 2021. In addition, the sports network said that there are 12 women on coaching staffs, but there are only 5 minority head coaches, and ESPN said, who cares? See, like when you get in that argument of makeup and all that dumb shit, like it's nonsense. It's like, oh, well, this makeup percentage wise represents this. It has nothing to do with whether or not they are fit for a job or whether or not they're good at it. Nothing. It's completely detached from it. If this is the direction that entertainment is going, which we've covered many times on this channel, that's where they're going. They are hyper-emphasizing diversity and inclusion and representation and all these other bullshit terms. I honestly think that these companies that adopt that as a policy should be defunded. Now, this is a dangerous precedent, I think, to set. We've seen this historically be a rather deadly one. But also, it's not one based upon what the market is dictating. This is something that you have to be forced. So what happens is that you have to build a policy to be including all of these folks. And, of course, through their diversity bullshit, they have to use that brand in order to promote what a lot of it is. You know, you can say that it's Marxism, but a lot of it is just authoritarian leftism. But I guess I repeat myself, to be fair, where they have their own individual things that they want to see the world become. And they start implementing those in their own individual practice. This is something in which I've encouraged other people that aren't leftists to start doing. You see where these companies are going, particularly the mega corporate entities. These are companies that for the most part have been around forever. Newer companies aren't doing that shit. Now, I'm not going to sit up here. I think NFL, because it's so unique to America, though it has expanded in other countries, it's still like more of an American sport. It's going to be certainly hard to have a competitive league with the fucking NFL. However, I do think that you're going to be okay in the event that you don't watch it. So, but people need to understand, like, that's what's going to have to happen. That's what's going to have to happen. If you want this stuff to change, like, these people have to be defunded by you. There's things that you can't control. Definitely, if I won't say that you can't control. It's more of that they're not as easy to address. But you can detach yourself from these things. I understand that it may be very difficult, considering that some of these were part of your lives, your pastime. These are things that you enjoyed. But when you see them start adopting like just straight up authoritarian leftist positions, and then they implement it within their company, they're telling you this is where we're at ideologically. And I don't think that those things are going to change until the vast majority of people that understand what the fuck is going on start detaching themselves from these types of brands that lead with this policy. Again, it's not about things that you disagree with. That's not what we're discussing. These are people that ideologically are in opposition to what definitely folks that value liberty believe in. Now, maybe at some point, once they are effectively defunded, some people they'll change. You'll see companies start to pivot because wherever the wind blows, that's where they're going to be. But I do believe that definitely in the age of technology, there will be other forms of entertainment, not mere sports, but there'll be different forms of entertainment that a lot of people are going to get something out of, and that's just going to replace it in the eyes of them. Like I said, I don't watch the NFL anymore. I think the only time that I saw a game or I'll see something is in passing. So rest in peace to my grandmother. During the Thanksgiving of last year, I was over there and they had the game on over at her house. The Cowboys usually play on Thursday. On those Thanksgiving games. So it was on. But aside from that, like, I'm not like going out of my way watching this stuff. I'm not watching it on Sundays or anything. Like, I don't have to watch this. Now, that means that if I am looking to be, let's say, entertained, and I've looked at other things, but it's been okay, guys. I've lived, believe it or not. I have lived. I am okay. I'm alive. I'm healthy. Even though I've gone a long period of time of something that's been a part of my life since I was old enough, and since I was wearing the Emmitt Smith jersey in my child photos. But it's okay. It's okay. And I think the more people realize, it's not so bad to go without this shit and start acting accordingly, you'll see companies pivot on these positions or they'll go down. And I say let them.
You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.